それではこれより
We'd now like to start the Japan Climate Action Summit 2025, hosted by Japan Climate Initiative.
私は本日の全体の務めます
I am Ken Tanaka from WWF Japan. I'll be serving as AMC today.
さて
Now, we only have less than 2 months left in 2025. The important year of 2030 for the path to achieving the Paris Agreement 1.5 degrees Celsius target is just about 4 years away. It is no longer a far future, but a near and foreseeable future. While there are some moves counter to decarbonization in the world, as seen in the rapid expansion of renewable energy, supported by the actions of countries steadily promoting climate measures and unwavering efforts by non-governmental actors, progress towards decarbonization is continuing. It is 10 years from the Paris Agreement and right before COP30. As if to show the momentum, we have record high 2,400 participants registered, both online and face-to-face. Today is the opportunity to further understand the climate impacts that are becoming serious and latest situation of renewable energy procurement as an important solution. The path we should be pursuing beyond 2030 will be discussed by diverse speakers from Japan and abroad. Also, at the end of the summit, Japan Climate Action Summit 2025 declaration will be announced to once again show the determination of JCA members toward decarbonization. Please stay with us until the very end. First, we will hear from Takejiro Sueyoshi, the co-representative of Japan Climate Initiative. Sueyoshi-san, please. Good afternoon. It's been 7 years since JCI was established in July 2018, and still new members keep joining us. As of today, we have 852 non-governmental actors participating. We're quite delighted. We deeply appreciate your passion and determination toward the achievement of the goals of Paris Agreement. As the climate crisis is intensifying year by year, Japan's renewable energy, which is essential for achieving the Paris Agreement's goals, is in a very worrying situation. As many of you are aware, there is a fierce headwind of renewable energy bashing. Of course, reasonable criticism based on scientific data or international circumstances should be welcomed for the sound expansion of renewable energy. However, what are gaining momentum today are different. There are arguments that confuses unique problems of specific projects with that of entire renewable energy to deny it. It's like saying that because tragic car accidents are occurring, the cars should be abolished altogether. Agenda-driven arguments. Such bashing also is a major hindrance for fostering healthy energy discourse in Japan. But is renewable energy also regarded problem child in the world? The situation actually is the opposite. According to the UN report titled Seizing the Moment of Opportunity, released this July, renewable energy in 2024 attracted large investments of $2 trillion, matched fossil fuels in terms of installed capacity, generating electricity, half of fossil fuels' annual electricity generation, accounting for 1/3 of the total and became the power source with shortest lead time and the cheapest cost. Created 16 million jobs and had become the leading excellent energy source. That is renewable energy. Borrowing the words of the UN reports that I mentioned, renewables are accelerating the new energy era globally. Also, according to the International Energy Think Tank, ENBA, I think it means that the fossil fuels is now being ENBA, but renewable energy surpassed coal in power generation in the first half of this year, becoming the largest power source. In Japan, which used to be the world leader in solar power generation, if Japan treated renewable energy with such potential as nuisance, Japan's near future would be in danger. That is because Japanese companies would be excluded from the international supply chains that demand high green level, shunned by green consumers of the world, and lose international competitiveness. It is needless to say that only by breaking away quickly from the dependence on fossil fuels and using renewable energy on an international level, Japan can stand at the center of the world. To that end, it is time for Japan to once again sincerely face the potential of renewable energy, accept what it offers, and make a nationwide effort to build a foundation for that purpose, isn't it? Hoping that today's JCAS will bring a science-based and global-level fresh air to the renewable energy discussion in Japan, I conclude my remarks. Thank you very much once again for your attendance today. Thank you. Thank you very much for the opening remarks, Mr. Sueyoshi. Next, we are to hear a keynote. We'll be hearing from Sherry Madera, Chief Executive Officer of CDP. Madera-san, the floor is yours.
Today, the business risk of climate change will be the theme, and decarbonization as well as nature positive, the process, which is the other side of the coin, and the importance of which will be explained.
Thank you very much, and good afternoon, everyone. A big thank you to the Japan Climate Initiative for this important action summit and bringing us together here in Tokyo. Japan knows the cost of environmental disruption better than most nations. You've lived it. From record heat waves to rising cost of supply chain interruption, the link between environmental risk and financial performance is no longer abstract. It's immediate. Flood damage alone has cost approximately $52 billion to the economy of Japan over the past decade. And we know this because Japanese companies are recognizing these risks. The CDP data shows that 82% of Japanese companies have identified environmental risks with substantial financial effects. This is far above the global average of 67% that report to CDP. It's a privilege to stand among this group of leaders who understand the power of sustainability. In the decade to come, sustainable business will be the power behind profit and planet coming together to build enduring business success. This is a time of transition. Whether we define it that way or not, environmental risks are economic risks. It's that simple. And through CDP, 2/3 of the world's market capitalization report into us, and a record number of Japanese companies continue to disclose through CDP. In 2024, over 2,200 companies and over 70% of the premium market in Tokyo reported to CDP. Disclosure turns transparency into resilience, competitiveness, and return. I was just talking over lunch about the beginnings of CDP. And really, it began with 3 humble souls that knocked on a door. It happened to be the Prime Minister's door in the UK. And the idea was, wouldn't it be good for capital markets around the world and for those who move money to have data that's not just financial data in order to be able to take important business decisions? And after that knock, and after that convincing, those 3 founders of CDP walked away from number 10 Downing Street with a check for £10,000. That was 25 years ago. And within 25 years, the entire global market for sustainability data has been born. It's more than born. It's evolved. It's changed. It's become a deep part of what businesses need in order to be able to do business. This is not a nice to have. In 2025, the data that CDP surfaces is core to business activities. And how do we know that? We know that because this year we are working with over 640 of the world's largest investors, representing over $120 trillion of assets under management. We were working with 240 of the world's largest supply chain owners that are moving $6.5 trillion worth of buying power. And these actors, they rely on CDP for data to take business decisions. As SSBJ here in Japan moves forward with mandatory disclosures, we may all be tempted to think of disclosure as a compliance exercise. I'm here to tell you, it's not. At CDP, we always remember why it is that businesses disclose to CDP. If we forget that, we're too far away from the businesses and the market that we serve. So why do they do it? It comes down to 3 simple things. The first is that it expands their access to capital. Reporting through CDP and having sustainability data allows them into some of the universes of investment for asset managers and access to new sustainable finance products. The second reason is business efficiency. This includes how you can use it internally, but also how you respond to your customer. And increasingly, we see customers are demanding this data from their suppliers in order to be able to make a decision. And third is compliance. And of course, it's incredibly laudable that the world is moving forward with mandatory disclosures, not only here in Japan, but worldwide. And so if we think about it, it's the ABCs: access to capital, business efficiency, and compliance. Let's keep it simple, because actually, disclosure is not free. It's not easy. It costs money for businesses to do this. And we need to remember that so that we make sure that we're minimizing the burden as much as we can, because the return on the investment of surfacing that data is so huge for businesses in all of those A, B, C categories. Today, sustainable disclosure is a business enabler and a strategic driver. It's the language of capital markets and of boardrooms. Disclosure data informs investment decisions, lending conditions, and corporate strategy. Japan recognizes the power of data very well. The question is no longer, should you disclose? But can you afford not to? I'm inspired by the practical use of data in everyday business benefits. Let me give you one example. In Japan, Sumitomo Mitsui Banking Corporation, SMBC, has tied loan rates to CDP scores, with Kao, a leading consumer goods company, earning preferential terms based on its strong CDP performance. Kao, Unicharm, Toyota Tsusho, 3 AAA listers from CDP. It means that they're excellent in their transparency in climate, in water, and in forests. There are only 8 AAA listers in the world, and 3 call Japan home. At CDP, we know that value is created through sustainability. Of course, there's an immense value in emissions decreasing. And in fact, we have a wonderful statistic about that. Within 2 years of a company first disclosing to CDP, their emissions go down by 7 to 10%. That is a fact that I think we should all celebrate. And that's simply being able to measure and then manage. In addition to this, disclosure is also driving financial value. We call this the disclosure dividend. The return companies gain by measuring, disclosing, and acting on their environmental risks, impacts, and opportunities. In Japan, the numbers speak for themselves. Japanese companies have disclosed that on average, every yen spent on addressing physical climate risks deliver up to 12 yen in return. That's a 12x return. Disclosure is not only about mitigating risks, of course. It's also about identifying opportunities. And that's a critical part of what CDP surfaces through its data. And 75% of Japanese companies identified opportunities from environmental action. Companies have quantified this even further. $3.2 billion could be saved with emissions reductions initiatives already identified by Japanese companies. When companies measure, they can manage, and they can make a difference. When they manage, they save. When they save, they grow. Disclosure is not just about transparency. It's an engine for competitiveness and for growth. The data is clear. Environmental health and economic resilience are two sides of the same coin. At CDP, we've been surfacing data on climate, water, forests, biodiversity, and recently on plastics for decades. This is no longer just about carbon. It's about climate and nature. And that is a concept that I am very heartened that here in Japan, we don't have to convince anyone of. Japanese citizens, Japanese businesses have a deep, deep respect for nature. And that is helping Japan accelerate how it is disclosing against the TNFD, the Task Force for Nature-Based Financial Disclosures, and through the questions that link up to TNFD through CDP. And I thank you for that. The highest year of demand data for, the highest demand for this year's data was for nature data and biodiversity data. So it isn't about doing good, even in this newer sector of nature. Actually, the market is demanding this. Water, forests, land use, these are all scarce commodities, and they're all economic inputs. So actually, it's a wise business decision to be able to track, to monitor, and to work on how to price it accurately as scarcity grows up and demand increases. We often stop and think about AI. It's exciting. You know, it's on everyone's lips around the world. But AI needs data centers. Data centers need energy. They also need water. And so this becomes a very acute link between nature and growth. Again, data is a way of navigating through that. CDP is embracing the shift in this narrative to core business, to being able to understand how nature, climate influence growth and opportunity. And we're calling it Earth Positive Economics. This isn't just about mitigating risk. It's about a reassessment of the inputs that define how we create value. So what is Earth Positive Economics? Earth Positive Economics is about building markets that value what truly sustains them. Air, water, land, forests. It's where climate and nature are not costs to be managed, but capital to be invested in. Recognizing that protecting nature and climate is not a trade-off, but a foundation for long-term prosperity. Earth Positive Economics connects environmental stability with economic strength. So what does this mean in practice? Climate and nature are not externalities. They're balance sheet items. They're assets that depreciate when degraded and appreciate when protected. Fundamental to how we measure performance now and into the future. Disclosure delivers the missing market signals. Globally comparable environmental data shows us precisely where environmental impacts create or erode value. Growth that lasts requires a stable climate and thriving ecosystems, and the data proves it. There is still time to meet our global climate goals if we leverage the power of data to drive the critical financial flows that underpin action. COP30 is well underway. It's starting in earnest next week in Brazil. But as it moves, with it comes the hope that it will make a decisive shift from ambition to implementation, from promises to progress. It's being billed as the Action COP. I sincerely hope it is. The transition to Earth-positive action won't happen without finance, and finance won't flow without trust. COP30 must be the moment we connect capital to implementation using high-quality data to de-risk investment and direct trillions towards real-world transition and resilience. Few countries are better placed to lead that shift than Japan. With world-class transparency, an enabling policy environment, and capital ready to act, Japan stands at the forefront of credible climate action. Building on this strong foundation, Japan can now power an economy beyond net zero, an economy that's Earth positive. Thank you all for what you do.
Madera-san、ありがとうございまし
Thank
た。
you very much, Ms. Madera.
情報開示の
Now,
持つ
the power of disclosure, and we need to go for decarbonization and Earth positive. It was very convincing, and you have given us good numbers. As we move toward Earth positive, what is happening in Japan and the world? In the next panel discussion, we would like to hear the actual examples.